Happy Rosh Chodesh Adar. It's probably my favorite month of the year starts tonight. It's the month of joy. It's the month that Purim is in. And today I want to just quickly talk about a little bit about Mishpatim and then bring it back to Rosh Chodesh, which is super special. And I literally wait all year long for this month. So last week we had the 10 Commandments. Jews were at Mount Sinai. And this week's Parsha Mishpatim, we start all the laws. And it's so interesting because the very first law that we have is that if you have a slave, like if somebody is a slave for you because for whatever reason they became an indentured servant, after 7 years they must go free, unless of course they don't want to. But no one's allowed to be a slave. And I really feel like that sets this tone for what Mishpatim is all about. It's not about the laws between us and God. It's all the laws between us and our fellow Jew. And I feel like that is so important because, God just basically declared himself king last chapter in Yitro. And in this week's Parsha, he's basically saying, but what really, really matters is how you treat one another. Yes, I'm your God. I can do all these miracles. But the laws I'm going to give you are going to be the most important laws are between you and how you treat your fellow person. And we're going to start with the idea of slavery. No one should be a slave to somebody else indefinitely. That's not how life should be. We all should have our own individual freedoms and free will unless somebody really, really doesn't want it. But it's not normal for one person to have control over another person. And I feel like that's something that Judaism really brought to the table that other religions hadn't had up until that point. Again, you always had like somebody above somebody else, whether it's a firstborn, whether it's royalty, whether it's a nation over another nation. And we see it today, right? Like women had to fight for their rights. African Americans had to fight for their rights. Today we see LGBTQ people needing to fight for their rights. We've come such a long way, but really we're all supposed to be equal. However, true equality doesn't mean that we're all exactly the same. Real equality is you don't think you're better than somebody else. You can't just murder who you want or take who you want as a slave and just have dominion over somebody else, but everybody is different. And I think that a lot of times equality gets confused with everything being the same, that we all should be clones of one another. And when that happens, you lose your individuality. Now I'm going to bring this back to Adar, this month that we're in. It's the month of joy. What is joy? Does joy mean that you get everything that you want in the world? Does joy mean that you're the wealthiest, the prettiest? What is it? Adar's joy that we are going to experience tonight, which is this incredible energy, means that you are who you are. You know where you belong. You know what you struggle with, what you're gifted with. You believe everything happens for a reason. And the only thing you can really control, which is your free will up here and your perception of the world and your perception of your situation, you're content with. And if you find something that you want to achieve, you give it your all, but you always in the back of your mind know you really only have control over your mindset. And that's what we learn from the story of Purim with Haman versus Mordechai, that Haman was never happy with what he had and he always wanted more and he had this insatiable appetite. And Mordechai was so content, and when he fought, it was on behalf of the Jewish people. Like, this all must be happening for a reason, but I'm going to try my best to fight for my people, for Esther, and I'm going to just do it like B'Shem Shemaim, in the name of God, even though God's not mentioned. And I find it so fascinating that, Purim's a story where God is not mentioned. Mishpatim is really the chapter where it's really all about how we relate to one another. Really is not connected to God. And because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. Like, I really believe God's saying, if you had to choose between me or your fellow man, choose your fellow man. Because you'll always, if you see the godliness and the uniqueness in yourself, you'll see it in somebody else, and then you'll come back and you'll see me. And I think we're missing that today. And I think so often if we don't get what we want, we like get so depressed, like how come that person has this and how come I'm struggling with this? You can't look at life like that. Adar's energy is about realizing the power within, realizing that we can make a difference. But the most impressive, important difference we can make is our viewpoint of the world and of ourselves. And that relates to how we treat one another. So again, of course, we shouldn't want to be a slave to another person or thing, and we shouldn't want to attack somebody or kill somebody, or, those are horrible things. But the people who do that a lot of times are the ones who are broken and who feel so insecure and have such low self-esteem that they can't handle themselves. They have to take from others. But it really starts from within. So, I could talk forever about Adar. I'm actually giving a class Motzei Shabbos tomorrow about what the month represents. It's transformative energy according to the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formations, which is the Jewish zodiac, which will be awesome. So please tune in at 7:30. But really, truly, and I feel like I say this point a lot, but it's because it is like the most important point I could ever try and get across in my videos, is that the real joy and the real beauty in that and how life transforms itself is not coming from the outside. It really is coming from the inside. And don't look for external factors to give you validation. Give yourself validation. The better you treat yourself, while having humility, of course, really being content, that is the driving force as to how you're going to affect those around you and how you're going to relate to the people in this world. And it's a lesson that, no matter how many times we talk about it, for thousands of years, humanity just hasn't gotten the point. And I think it's something that we can't stress enough. I want to wish everybody the most beautiful Shabbat. Happy Rosh Chodesh. Happy Adar. May this month bring you ultimate joy. If you're still in isolation because of COVID and you're social distancing, we're almost there. People are getting vaccinated. Life will definitely come back to normal soon. So kind of live up this extra time you have to yourself, where you're a little bit more hidden, a little bit more to yourself, because this is the time where you can truly, truly work on that inner relationship with yourself. So when we all come back together again soon, we're all going to be hopefully our best selves. Shabbat Shalom.